Welcome to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. I'm an artist, photographer, and an author. In the late 80s, I created a band called The Empire Hideous. Until 2009, I was a PC liberal Democrat, after which I became an independent. I believe in science, and I consider myself an alchemist who seeks answers to difficult questions. You're listening to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. The opinions and ideas expressed during this podcast belong to the speakers and are not a reflection on the services used to distribute this podcast. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Finding the Truth with me, your host, Myke Hideous. Thank you for tuning in, so to speak. And today is the 12th of February, 2024. And we have a lot to talk about. And let's get right into it. I will now introduce my co-host, my producer, my engineer, my partner in crime and colleague, Professor Z.
Hello, everyone. And yes, we have so much to talk about today. I mean, oh my God, if you didn't see what happened last week, it definitely was a game changer type of event on Thursday. And and Myke, you got to see that debacle, to say to be kind.
It's an embarrassment, is what it is. You know,
yes,
it really is. And I hope people are starting to see. Obviously, the audience doesn't know what we're talking about just yet, but I hope people are beginning to see what President Trump went through as the press hounded him, or I should say attacked him like a pack of wolves. That's what they're doing to Biden now, so to speak. He just can't handle it. But go ahead, tell everybody what happened.
Well, and to that, they basically, the media has turned finally on President Biden. And it's because of the obvious, comments, statements, however you want to say, in the report that came from the Justice Department, Biden's own Justice Department, pointing out the fact that he's an elderly man with memory problems. And this is the man who is our president and running the country and has access to nuclear codes.
And to think that they were scared that Trump was going to start a war. And yet here we are practically in World War III. And this idiot is the reason we are where we are right now.
Well, I'm sorry, it's not only him, it's the people around him. They obviously propped him up. They've known that this is not a man who can actually lead or do the job, but they've been propping him up, and they had the benefit of COVID to actually keep him in his basement, and yet people still continue to vote Democrat like they always have. And somehow, no matter how you want to,
like I said, they would have voted for a ham sandwich just to get Trump out of office. They would have.
You're not wrong. Yes,
I know I'm not. That's why he won. He only won because they wanted Trump out by any measure and any possible way necessary. And that's why this idiot, who was an idiot for 47 years before he was president, got in. That's why. They're falling apart. The Democrats, the Democratic politicians in the administration right now, they're falling apart. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, they don't know what to do, and it was great. Actually, I watched part of The Five today with Greg Gutfeld, and he pointed out, they basically just hit the wall. It's like, they've been running. His analogy was a car that was running out of gas, and they kept saying, the Democrats are driving the car, and they're just like, no, we can make it another few miles. We've got enough gas, and they're running on fumes, and now they're out of fumes.
Interesting. I would say they're running on lies, but yes, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, they've run out of excuses, and there it was blatantly in front of our eyes on Thursday night. The man stood there, and he was an angry old man, just like you could, point out from I don't know how many movies of the past, of the angry old man next door.
just
and that's exactly
cursing
who
and
got.
you know,
I mean, he's getting the fact that he gets pissed off rather than trying to answer the question or address the issue. That shows you something.
he certainly doesn't act like
So,
a politician, right?
well, I mean, he acts like a failed politician. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just
Oh, in my
he
humble
never
opinion,
accomplished anything, and he definitely isn't cognizant of the moment to stand behind whatever. I mean, it's all bullshit.
it,
It's like
and to take into consideration, this is a man who had what was it, a brain tumor or an aneurysm or something, many years
a
ago.
long time ago. Yeah.
He had surgery on his brain, which I think there's a possible connection. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, he is showing definite signs of cognitive failure. And oh, by the way, if anybody, this is my bird. This is Sergeant. Real quick, that's the one you always hear. Well, maybe not
Yeah.
always, but that's the one that
He's in the
screams.
background there.
Yeah.
You have a couple of birds, I know, right?
Yeah. So this is
But
Sergeant.
Sergeant is a rescue bird. Well, we're changing topics real quickly,
Yeah,
but let's
just
go
just
ahead and
just
talk
to
about
introduce the
Sergeant.
bird.
There you go. Hi,
We'll go
Sergeant.
back to him later. So anyway, yeah, terrible things happening to the Democrat Party. In addition to the possibility of him actually thinking he's going to run in 2024, he's not. If he makes it through this year, I'd be surprised. I really would.
Well, at this point, it's going to have to be something else. But I mean, that's part of what I've been listening to and I'm thinking about, and the fact that, will he do something now to basically bail out and put Kamala in charge?
The thing
Or
is, they don't
worse,
want to put Kamal in because she's more stupid than he is.
exactly. She's got worse ratings than he does, and literally they came out today said what 87% of the people that can vote think he shouldn't be running.
Yep.
So I mean, it's kind of funny. The pundits watch on different media and stuff like that point out like you can't get 87% of Americans to agree on anything, and here you have them agreeing on the fact that this man should not be president or running for president again.
No, he shouldn't be president now.
Right, exactly. I mean, it more or less does lead to that. And like another pundit pointed out, like, okay, if this is the case, who is in charge?
And having said that right there, one of my biggest fears is if the Democratic Party tries to throw Michelle Obama into the mix. Because we all know that if she gets in there is a good possibility that if indeed that she were to win, we all know what that means. That means Obama gets a third term.
Well, he's already got a third term right now, as far
right.
as many pundits would point out. But yeah, then he gets a fourth one. But, the interesting thing that still stands out, and I think a lot of Americans would remember this, is the fact that she doesn't like
politics.
The America.
That's right.
No,
yeah.
not politics. America itself. She actually, had a comment that she said on stage where she pointed out, I can't remember the exact phrase, but she basically said she had no respect for our country.
Mm-hmm. She honestly. She said that when they interviewed him and President Obama, that he did you catch that joke? He said that he was never proud to be an American. In fact,
right.
Until that point, I think he was never proud to be an American. And then all of a sudden, they step out of the White House, and now they're right back to where they, saying things right back where they were before he was president and she was first lady or first man. And they shit all over this country. And it cracks me up because they just constantly push the race issue all the time, the race card all the time, always about race. And that's why I'm like, I don't like these people. If you just shut up, maybe it'll go away. We were doing fine before that. And as I've said 100,000 times, there's always going to be racism. Always. You cannot
Well,
get
there
rid
will
of
be,
it. But we
and
were
there'll
doing
always be
pretty good
conflict or
as a
hatred
country.
between groups. Yeah.
We were doing pretty good as a country up until they stepped in and had to F everything up.
Well, I mean, you're always going to have conflict between groups of individuals. I mean, it's not, racism, however horrible it is, it's always going to exist because you're always going
Always.
to have one group of people that hate this other group of
Always.
people for whatever reason. And so there's very little you can do about that. Not to mention, people can want peace, but the reality is that like there's always going to be conflict. There's no way
Always.
you're going to get to a point where every group of people are
I,
okay with their neighbors. I
I'll
mean,
say it again, okay? Yesterday I watched animal programs, nature, wildlife, all that stuff, lions, porpoises, jellyfish, the whole 9 yards. I saw all kinds of animals. They all
Mutual of
fucking
Omaha's
they all
animal.
fucking hate each other and they all want to kill each other. That's what they
Yes.
do. And I cannot repeat this enough. We are part of the animal kingdom. No matter how much we want to put ourselves on a pedestal, we are part of the animal kingdom. And we're the most violent, hateful, racist, segregating, I don't know if that's a proper term, but we are the worst of them all, okay? Because we kill for sport, we kill for land, we kill for and just about anything. Jealousy,
For greed. I mean,
greed,
mostly greed. I mean,
religion,
even those
God.
that kill for sport or for trophies are still just those that are greedy. They're using these things to get themselves whatever notoriety in the world.
Status.
But I have no problem with hunters in general. If you're hunting for your actual meals and you consume what you hunt, I mean that is still something that should be appreciated.
Right, but we're
And
getting off the topic here. What I'm trying to
yes, we are
say,
very much so.
is that as a species, that's what we do. There's always going to be the hatred from mankind, and we're always going to fight other people. For eons and generations, there have been cultures, groups, tribes, whatever you want to call them, groups of certain ethnic people. That's just the way it's been since the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I know America is the melting pot, and that's all fine and dandy. I mean, my ancestors came here from Italy, back in the when was it the late 1800s. And here's the funny thing: when they talk about how we should all love each other and everybody should intermix and just do it. Here's the thing: have you ever noticed that when people moved to this country or into areas of this country, you had places like Little Italy, Chinatown. You had the
Yep.
areas with the Spanish. You had the areas with the blacks. You had the areas with the Irish, the Polish, and need I go on? The point is, these people congregated to their own kind.
Yeah, because you have similar language, you have similar culture. Why would you want to step out of your own culture to, sure,
Jesus.
there's exploring and understanding and but that's not for everybody. I mean, a lot of people actually like to stay within their culture because it
Right?
is somewhat comfortable.
Of course.
I'm sure you probably grew up. You should find a good Italian girl that you should settle down with, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
4 times.
especially who's Catholic, right? I mean,
Well, not so much in my later days, but yes, you're right. When I was younger, I always hung out with people that were Caucasian, mostly, and Italian. Not to say that I didn't have friends that were of other cultures. Like I knew, black people, Spanish people, Irish people. I think my cat just fell down the stairs. Irish people, Polish people.
oops,
I knew all different ethnic people. I mean, I
right?
had to. I
I
lived
can
in
see that.
Paterson. I was born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey, and it's a huge amount of, different ethnic people. So what I'm saying is that, I've been around it, but as I said, everybody I knew that was a different ethnicity, they lived in areas and neighborhoods that were part of their own. But we're getting way off subject now. Yes, President
Yes, we were on
Corpse.
the president. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
President Corpse is failing miserably. He has the worst ratings, or what would you call it? The polls ratings, right?
Polls, ratings, however you want to describe it. It was 87% across the board of adult voters.
What a disgrace.
Think the man should not be running for president.
What a disgrace.
And forgive me, it sounds like I might be repeating myself, but I'm pretty sure this is what we discussed before the show. I was like, we can't get 87% of Americans to agree on like the fact that the sun is up when it's daytime. And I took that from somebody I listened to on the TV today, because I thought it was a perfect analogy. Like, damn, like, still half Americans would say, no, the sun's not up, even though it's 12 noon in the afternoon. So, the fact that 87% of Americans says this man is too old to be running for president, especially after last Thursday, damn, that says a lot.
And then today, I think he met with the King of England.
No, Jordan.
Oh, didn't he meet with the guy from England too? The king?
No, the King of England is actually just recovering from pancreatic cancer surgery. So I'm pretty sure he's not up and about. But I do know that I saw the video clip of him talking or doing a press conference with the King of Jordan, where they're pushing again for a two-state solution to the problem in Israel, which is just literally ludicrous, since they were trying that for the last 17 years before they literally, invaded their country and massacred their citizens.
Yep.
In either case, we're getting off the topic, but it is just stunning at this point.
It is.
That
it's embarrassing.
You and I have been seeing the degrading of this individual, at least for the last 3 years, if not before he got elected to office. And now finally, it's like the veil has been lifted. The emperor is naked. Everybody can see it. If you can't, look at this man and say he shouldn't be doing this job anymore, I'm not even sure he should be driving a golf cart in the villages right now. So,
here's the funny thing. You say that, he shouldn't be doing this job. Here's the thing about him doing his job. I thought this, like, you see presidents who get into the White House, they get elected, and it really ages them. It really it really wears them down.
It does.
Now, I thought that about President Corpse. I really did. I said, oh, well, it is a tough job. But here's the thing. He's been on vacation 40% of the time he's been president. You never see him out doing things like you did with Trump. He hardly ever, if ever, does press conferences. The guy they're hiding him because they know how many gaffes he's made, how many mistakes he's made. And they know that if they put him up in front of on a podium in front of people, he's going to F up. And that's what keeps happening. One of those classic scenes was when, who's that guy that's doing all the negotiation with Gaza and Israel?
Blinken.
Blinken.
Mr.
Okay.
Blinken.
Do you remember there was a press conference not too long ago, and they asked President Corpse a question about the communist of China.
Blinken. Okay, yeah.
They asked him a question about the communist president of China, Xi Jinping, and they asked him, I don't know what the question was, but the response was, yes, he's a communist, or yes,
he's a dictator.
He's a dictator.
Right. Yeah, he's a dictator.
And Blinken sat there and practically rolled his eyes and shook his head, so to speak. He was so embarrassed by it. He was
You just put us back a couple of years in foreign
What a
policy.
classic scene. I almost pissed my pants when I saw Blinken react the way he did. He's like,
Yeah, and it was really subtle too. But I
what
mean,
a
I'm sorry
jerk.
if you know anything about body language, you watch that man when the president said like, "Oh yeah, sure, he's a dictator."
He's a
And it was just
dictator.
like, "Oh God,
Yep.
why do you say that?"
He almost looked constipated when he heard it.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
well he probably actually left a load in his pants. I mean, like,
What a classic scene. So there you go, right there. The president cannot speak without screwing something up. I mean, he can't speak practically anything. He just makes mistakes constantly. He sits there and he's like, I um I whatever.
you mentioned it before the show. Like Mark Levin just played a clip, and like you pointed out today's date. If you want to look up Levin's show, but he played this clip that went on for, I swear, well over 10 minutes of the man just stammering and stumbling and not being able to put together a coherent sentence. You know,
Yeah, it was
you know.
basically like a collaboration of all his gaffes and screw ups. And
Yep.
oh
But
my
after five
gosh.
minutes, I was already exhausted.
Oh,
Like, okay, I get it. It's just like, you don't want to keep listening to it,
it was
but it's
painful.
reality. Yeah.
It was painful, and then it's certainly an embarrassment. And that is, people, that is the reason why we are where we are now, because this president has shown he is weak, he's incompetent, and that's why our enemies are taking full advantage of this. It's almost like no one's running the country. I mean, somebody is, but
Well,
somebody
there is.
behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. The fact is, they're taking full advantage of this opportunity. I know I
Yeah.
would if I was the enemy of the United
And,
States.
and that's where I would actually, change sort of the wording that you just said. It's not incompetence. The man has never been competent. He is a puppet. He is literally the walking definition of a political puppet because, he obviously has not been up for this job since before he got it.
Mm-hmm.
And his handlers and everybody around him are fine to actually make sure that, oh, he gets the job so we can get our agenda through, and we'll just make sure he goes out there and says the right things and hopefully doesn't screw up like he has been.
Mm-hmm.
But
We
it's
could
just,
go on about this guy for days. I mean, it's just a disgrace.
well, I mean, after 3 years of this stuff, and we have to get through the next 9 months to finally find out whether or not we can get a reprieve. But the reality is still out there that he may actually get enough votes to win.
Who? President Corpse?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I mean, he did last time. No matter however you want to describe the how they got the votes, the way they got the votes.
Well, you and I both know how they got the votes.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some manipulation, and I know computers and IT and technology, and I'm not going to call anything out, but still, you can't argue with a paper ballot. When somebody signs their name and checks certain boxes and they hand it in, that is what it is. Computers and technology and intranets and data can be manipulated. It's just that is the nature of what that stuff is.
Can you hear my cat?
No, I missed it. Was there a moment there?
Well, good. Maybe the microphone's not picking it up, but she's crying. Meow, meow, meow. Sorry.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's why I
Is
was
it time
laughing.
to feed the cat?
Yeah, it is actually. It's time for the meat. Anyway,
That's
so
pretty funny. Well, we can take a break maybe so you can feed your
no,
cat.
no, 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 no. It's fine. It's fine. Let's move on though.
But we've
From this topic.
I think beaten the horse, like everybody else has in the last I don't know,
Like I
72
said, we could
hours
go
or so.
on and on and on about this guy. There's no end to it. There really isn't. It's a
Well, the
joke.
only end is him getting voted out of office.
It's a
And
joke at this point. It really is. It's a
it
joke and an
is. I mean,
embarrassment.
that's what's sad is the fact that we are a joke on the world stage because
Hmm.
now the whole world saw it on display
Yep.
last Thursday.
And we've
I mean,
lost allies as a result. Afghanistan,
mm,
Israel. I mean, everybody.
I
They're
saw a
all
news
turning their
story
backs. France.
out of Australia, and like the Australians are just like literally beside themselves the way that they did this report. Like this is the man who's the leader of the free world.
Oh, they
You
they
know,
they
and
crack on him all the time.
yep, and well, rightly so at this point because
Yep.
now the whole whoever is the free world beyond the United States, they're all really worried.
Mm.
So, they're already living in a quasi state of freedom that we have. And that here we are, this is what we have right now in the homeland of freedom. I mean, I'm
Mm.
probably, it's grossly overstated or whatever, but I mean, still, this is where individual freedom is supposed to live. And we are definitely under the dictatorship of an individual who is not cognizant of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Hey folks, thanks for listening to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. Listen, don't forget to check out all my hideous merchandise, including t-shirts, blankets, hoodies, CDs, and my book, King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It's all available only at MykeHideous.com. And don't forget, that's Myke with a Y, M-Y-K-E, MykeHideous.com. Welcome back, everyone. So Z recently showed me an article about something interesting that's been taking place. Now, I don't remember exactly what country this was. Was it
No,
America or
it was the
UK?
UK. It was in England, yeah.
UK. So, a strange thing. And what was the doctor's name?
John
Or the
Campbell.
mortician?
Yeah, Dr. John Campbell. He has a YouTube channel on the
Campbell or Camel?
Campbell.
Campbell, like Glenn Campbell.
Yes.
So, Mortician Campbell.
Campbell. Campbell.
Campbell.
Yes.
So, Mortician Campbell.
Well, he's not a mortician, just to point out. He's just he's been a doctor in the
So he's a doctor.
Yes, in the UK for
Dr.
over 40
Campbell.
years. He's written books about literally the human body and all the functions of the human body.
Right.
And
so Dr.
Yes,
Campbell.
go ahead.
So Dr. Campbell has this thing that he has discovered, which is quite disturbing, associated with the virus that is known as, in my opinion, the China virus. I don't care what you think when I say that word, but China virus is where it came from, okay? China virus. China virus. I said it again, okay? That's where it came from. It is known as the China virus. So this gentleman, this doctor, found this interesting, what would you call it? Disease.
Well, it's sort of
right?
I think pathology is the proper term for it, but it's these reports that were coming from different sources, but now specifically they're coming from morticians.
Okay, so he discovered this thing that is now taking place. It's killing people, and or I shouldn't say it's killing
They're
people.
assuming
People are
that
dying.
it is somehow responsible.
Right. So people are dying, and when they do these autopsies, they're finding these things in their veins, and they actually, they actually look like veins themselves.
Yep. They're mapping the veins, these structures.
They pull these things out, and they're these long, nasty. They look like worms almost, but they're not alive.
Nope.
They're cells that are building up within the veins, and they think that it is again, this is them who are these people who are making this known. They think that it is associated with the vaccine that was used to combat the China virus.
Yep.
Now, you know what? Go ahead, Z. Tell them what you know about this.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I've been watching Dr. John Campbell's YouTube channel. You can look him up. He's got over 3 million subscribers right now. He became very popular during the whole last 3 years because he was very frank in talking about the medical research that was coming out concerning COVID and the illness and the vaccines and everything. So one of the things that he's been pointing out for the last year or so is the fact that certain industries have been noting that there is excess deaths in the population around the world. More people are dying than should be expected. And where this
especially younger age too.
Yes. And this information is coming most interestingly from the insurance industry, because they make up the tables for life insurance and other information. And so when they start seeing information about, more deaths, they have to adjust their premiums and their rates. And so, interestingly enough, this is the first level where, it was getting some pushback on the fact that, something is going on here. And there is more people dying than should be dying, even after taking into consideration COVID deaths. So in the last 3 years, there have been definitely excess deaths in a majority of countries around the planet. And on top of that, Dr. John Campbell has an episode that he just posted 3 days ago where he talks to a mortician in England, and how in 2021 he first started discovering these long tendrils of elastic type material inside the veins of people that were coming through to be embalmed and to be buried. And he started making calls and saying, hey, we've got a problem here. I'm seeing something I've never seen before. And he's getting pushed back like, don't worry about it. So
now I have a question for you before you go on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Trump, when Trump was in office, he pushed for this vaccine to get done quick.
Yes.
Do you think this is his fault?
Well, I don't know if I would necessarily label it his fault, because the interesting thing is like the pushback that we're getting in we risk a lot. I'm just going to say right now in the show, by pointing out all these things out, but there is so much pushback from both government and from big business.
Well, hang on, just stop 1 second. Hold on. Let me stop you right there. The following comments that are taking place between my co-host and myself are strictly our opinion, and we are not trying to change anyone's mind on what they may or may not think results or any facts about the virus or the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
This is strictly an opinion based on myself and Z. We are not trying to push anything on anybody else right now. It is strictly an opinion and a conversation we're having based on a story that we found, or I should say Z found, online.
Exactly.
And it's out there.
Yep.
Okay? It's out there, and it's
out there
from what I understand,
for public consumption.
It's out there for the public to read. Mm-hmm. So we are not trying to change or give any sort of ideas to anybody. It's strictly journalism, so to speak.
In a way, yes. I'm relating what I was informed by other people that are literally on the front lines here. So just to complete the story, this one guy who is a mortician in England went on to point out the fact that when an autopsy is done, it's usually done because a person has passed away for unexpected reason. And so, especially if the person is young and healthy and they suddenly die, they would do an autopsy. And in England, I don't know if it's the same everywhere in the world, but in England, when they do an autopsy, the coroner actually removes most of the internal organs. They end up putting them in a bag and putting them inside the cavity of the person that's deceased. And then the body goes off to the mortician. Well, the mortician's finding that they can't fully embalm the body because when they go to put their instruments inside the vein system of a person that's deceased, they're blocked. And they're finding these things inside of the veins.
Interesting.
And so, they don't know what it is. And they actually, this one mortician's like, it's got to be part of the cause of death. I mean,
it sounds like it would be, right? If it's in the veins. I mean, it sounds like a major blockage,
exactly.
like almost like plaque or just like artery plaque
It's
buildup or something
the
like
way
that.
they describe the substance when they pull it out is that, and I'm going to put this out here on our broadcast so people can see the visuals and a little clip from John.
Do you have a
Yeah,
clip
I
of it?
do, and I'll play that in a couple of minutes.
Let's play the
We'll
clip.
play
Yeah,
that in a couple of minutes.
play the
But
clip.
just to point out real quickly,
Okay.
this substance, when it comes out of the veins, in the embalming process, is like rubber, and it does match the
Wow.
actual vein system of the body. So they pull it out, and then they look at it, and it's like it's a map of what was inside the person.
Wow.
Well, a warm welcome to this talk, and I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Richard Hirschman from Alabama. Now, Richard was one of the first embalmers in the world to notice these white blood clots and to start photographing them and taking notice of them, a new pathology. Richard, thank you very much for coming on the video.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be here.
And moving on into 2022, 2023, were you still seeing these white clots?
Oh, I see them right now on a regular basis almost, and the frequency at which I see it fluctuates. It's kind of up and down. Overall, I would say at least 50% of the bodies have some form of these clots. Now, not always are they the real big ones that I see. Sometimes they're smaller, but they're all very similar to this this kind of white fibrous looking tissue, and that's what it looks like. It looks like tissue, not like blood at all.
And what does it feel like? Is it sticky? Is it elastic? Is it fibrous? Does it crumble in your fingers? Is it stretchy?
No, a typical blood clot in the past is like grape jelly. At worst, maybe a grape jam. But and when you try to pick it up, it falls apart in your hand. It almost dissolves because the blood just crumbles apart and is very slippery and slick. These I can pick up with forceps. I can stretch them like a rubber band. They will break if you put enough tension on it, but they're way stronger than any clot that I'd ever seen before.
Quite incredible, really. So up to 50% of the bodies that you are embalming have got these white clots in them. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but you're seeing these in up to 50% of the bodies.
It's really honestly scary at this point. If you've had the vaccine and boosters and so forth, this is a big unknown at this point.
Wow. Do you know anything about the vaccine? I was told that it doesn't, when they give it to you, it doesn't operate like a normal vaccine would, like a flu vaccine.
Nope.
Like when you get a flu vaccine, you actually get the virus.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where
right, and that's how your body builds up an immunity. But
right.
From what I was told, this particular vaccine for the China virus was something that changed the molecular
worse than that,
structure
the DNA.
of DNA.
Yeah, no, it changed.
Like almost like something
DNA.
that had to do with like AIDS or something like that. Does that sound right?
Not exactly. Nothing necessarily related to AIDS, but essentially
not related to, but like AIDS. Like it had to do. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but it's very confusing.
It basically, the vaccine introduced foreign DNA to the individuals that got it. And one of the big issues, and Dr. Campbell goes through this in his videos, and I'm just going to get a little technical right now. When we got the vaccines, and I'll just point out, I never got a vaccine. I never got a booster. I never got any of this stuff. I just, from the start of it, I knew I was healthy enough that I didn't need it. And I knew I had a strong immune system. So I just, like, look, other people need this stuff. I don't. And I never took it in either case.
I should have did the same, but I didn't. I was too scared because, for those of you who don't know me, I am a post-cancer patient. I've had cancer a number of times, including chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and a multitude of surgeries. And I had, not to interrupt you, hold that thought, but I had a doctor friend of mine who I had asked, I said, listen, knowing my history, do you suggest I get this shot? And this was April of 2020. And he said, Myke, based on now mind you, this is a guy I've known since 1993. He said, or 92. He said, based on your history, it might be advantageous that you get the shot, so you're safe. And he did the same. And then I don't know, maybe a year later, I got the booster. First thing I got was the Johnson & Johnson, and then the Moderna.
Yeah.
Moderna. And then after that, we started hearing all this controversy about whether or not the vaccine was good or not, or not good. And he started hearing the same thing. And then at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm never getting this shot again. I am never getting it again. I heard so many things that were not only controversial, but frightening, especially for a person of my situation with all the problems that I had, my health problems. So I decided not to get the vaccine anymore based on my knowledge. Right. And I'm not going to try to change anybody's mind listening to this program. But even my doctor friend says, he's like, I'm not getting it anymore either. And we just chose not to get it anymore because we feel it would be better to, get like herd immunity, whatever.
Well, to that point, I mean, the best immunity is our own, oh gosh, I just lost the term, but our own
herd immunity, right?
It's not herd
Isn't
immunity.
It herd immunity.
It's the fact that, you have immunity yourself. Our immune systems are built to actually combat any sort of illness that comes into our system. So vaccines their only purpose is to boost our immune system, not to necessarily give you the cure or make sure that you don't get it. Their purpose,
right, which is how a flu shot works.
Right.
When you get the shot, you're given the actual virus so that your body builds up an immunity.
And what you're given is actually a dead portion of the virus on the right. genetic level, so that what you're getting in your immune system is something for your immune system to react to and to make antibodies to, and so that they can combat it. And so that is the
but
idea.
That's not what the China virus antibody.
The COVID virus. I mean, COVID is a term for a broad spectrum of viruses, but this one being, I'll just go right on a limb, it was man-made, and this man-made virus somehow made the powers that be make a new vaccine that has not been fully tested. And it's not like any other vaccine that we've ever had before. And it is an mRNA vaccine. And an mRNA vaccine, they rolled them out. They did the whole thing like, warp speed that, President Trump wanted and everything. But the reality is they actually never really did full trials in human beings.
Right.
And here you rolled out a brand new vaccine with unknown properties to the entire population of the world. And this thing is actually introducing foreign DNA into every person that gets it.
Right.
And that is the problem.
Again, I was wondering if because of that vaccine being pushed so rapidly, let's face it, we were all scared.
Exactly.
I know I was.
And one of the best ways to manipulate us by getting us scared.
And I understand what you're saying, control through fear, but at the same time, my history of having had cancer, when I think about like this almost like plague-like virus that was going around, I was genuinely scared for my health. I mean, fortunately, I live where I live in a very rural area. I don't live in a city anymore. Had I lived back in New Jersey, in Kearney, New Jersey, I don't think I would ever have gone out of my studio apartment. But here, it's different out here. I mean, yeah, people got sick, and even I got sick. I got sick after I had the 2 shots. I was actually, no, that's not, I had it twice, before and after. But yeah, I had the shots, and I wonder, like, did the
Well,
shots help
many
me
people had the
get it?
illness after the shots, which just goes to prove the fact that they did not work. I mean, many
Mm,
people don't understand how viruses will grow and mutate and evolve. And the fact is that a lot of the vaccines that got rolled out were rolled out for previous evolutions of the virus, not the current evolution of the virus. So there was different strains that came out. There was the initial, and then it went to Omega, and went to other different versions. I can't really remember where they're at nowadays. But if you're not making vaccines that are specifically targeted to the version that's currently going through the population and getting it out there, you're wasting your bloody time. And the fact that you're using a vaccine that has not been tested, has not gone through human trials, and there's already, actually, they know there's problems with them. That is the fact that these things, the vaccine never worked, really. I mean, people's natural immune, that's the term I was looking for before. Excuse me, everybody. I just came up with it. Natural immunity. That is the most important thing in our lives. Our bodies have a natural immune system, and we want to boost it. We want to enforce it. We want to take things like vitamin D to make sure we have a strong immune system. And if you do those things, you will be able to resist viruses like this.
right. And let me repeat, the following conversation is between myself and my co-host. We are not trying to push any agendas on anyone. This is strictly an opinion conversation.
Exactly.
We're not trying to change anyone's mind or anything like
Please
that.
go
It's
out there
our
and
decisions, and we're just going on that. So please don't think we're trying to change your mind on anything. Just putting out a
go do
disclaimer.
your own research.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in any of the merchandise that I sell, you can go to MykeHideous.com. Just like the name of our program here, Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. If you go to MykeHideous.com, you can get my book, which is called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It is about my years as a performer and a musician, and covers a range from 1988 to 2014. It also talks about my short but very successful point in time when I sang for the famous punk rock band known as the Misfits from Lodi, New Jersey. And you can also get my t-shirts, my horrible artwork, horror design, blankets, t-shirts, throw pillows, girls' dresses, so on and so forth, as well as my music, downloadable CDs. What else? I don't even. Just go to the damn website and check it out. So yeah, that's what I got. You can, and the most recent thing is the book. Hopefully I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a whole bunch of new t-shirts up and ready to go for sale. And that's not just the music stuff from Empire Hideous, the band that I was in, but this whole other section of design of clothing that I have with my artwork designs on them, and I call it horrible artwork. And it's going to be all kinds of stuff like that, old, creepy stuff. In case anybody doesn't know my background, I kind of dabble in the occult, so all creepy, cool stuff like that. So yeah, folks, if you're interested in anything, go to MykeHideous.com. Click on the shop section and go down, and a couple other clicks and you're there. Thanks very much, guys.
Well, let's see. I guess we have our quick news events. You want to just give me a moment here, and I will give you a few headlines that are currently on top of the news right now, right on top of everything. All right. So ready for the news. Here we go, Myke. I'll just give you a few good headlines. Just
right.
the important
Hit me
stuff.
up.
Not the bullshit stuff, the important stuff. So, first we got on the top of the headline: Chicago Dems turn on far left mayor as immigrant crisis wakes up voters.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Abbott's fault. Speaking of the governor of Texas. So, yes, I guess the Chicago Democrats are finally waking up to the fact that the migrant crisis is a huge issue and they have to deal with it.
Well, this reminds me of our last episode when we talked about the black voters in Chicago and how they are swaying now, or I should say swinging now to the right, and they want to vote Republican because they know that their lives were better before this administration destroyed the country and the world. So, yeah, I'm kind of aware of it. How I feel about it, I think it's great, and excuse me, I sincerely believe that if they, and I have to say this particularly about the black vote, if they do realize that the Democrat Party doesn't give them everything that they think they deserve, or to start understanding how the Democrat Party, the politicians, tend to use certain ethnic cultures or ethnicities of people to help them get their plans across. Because what they do, what they do is they tend to rile people up. The funny thing is, if people would just do their research, they would find that the Democrats were the ones who really pushed segregation, racism, and made. Let me put it to you this way:
Well, they were
basically
supporters of
just pushed
slavery.
down. Right. They were the ones who keep the black people down, so that the black people depend on that Democrat Party to give them what they want, which is everything from food stamps to welfare and so forth. They keep telling the black people, well, you shouldn't have to study so hard. Why not? The more you study, the smarter you get. You mean to tell me by not studying to become smart, to become, say, I don't know, someone who works in an ambulance, an emergency responder, okay? So there's affirmative action, which I think we've talked about before, where people who are of other ethnic backgrounds, not Caucasian, get lower scores on their tests so that they can get the job. Now tell me, is that not a racist thing in itself? Is that not a crutch, so to speak? I mean, I would much rather have somebody who passed their test in flying colors giving me CPR or whatever, tracheotomy or whatever, than somebody who didn't get 100 on 100 points on the test. It just goes to show you right there. They manipulate ethnic cultures. They are ethnic. What am I trying to say? Ethnic peoples. Thank you.
Well, and that's part of the DEI movement, right?
The TEI.
Is that D?
DEI?
Diversity, inclusion. I can't remember the exact term, but basically the idea is the fact that you're supposed to be hiring people based on their ethnicity rather
that's
than
racism
their merits.
Right there.
Right, but that's exactly true. I mean, or more accurately, it's a philosophy of not hiring the white guy and hiring anybody else.
We're more at that stage now than we've ever been in the last 50 years, from the 60s. Okay, so even the airlines want to hire more blacks and Latinos than they do Caucasians. Again, another racist move. They want to hire. I know. Did I ever tell you this story? I have a friend of mine who's an actor. All right, not a big star, but an actor nonetheless. And not
he works shows. He does the extra stuff, right?
Right. And I asked him last time I saw him. I said, "Hey, how's the acting going?" He goes, "Myke, it sucks." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, I'm not gay. I'm not black. I'm not a woman. I'm a white male. And nobody wants to hire me because I'm a white male. And I was absolutely taken by that because I just couldn't believe how incredibly racist that was. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there's no parts for white guys unless they're the guys that get beaten up on. I can't tell you how many advertisements I see, especially watching the Super Bowl last night, where it's the white guy as the stupid doofus and whatever ad it is.
I know. I've been seeing that for a long time. And it disturbs me because I don't think that way. I think people deserve what they are worth. You get what you're worth. You get the respect you deserve when you prove yourself on what you're capable of doing.
Based on your merits. I think the term is a meritocracy. So if you actually judge people based on their merits and their accomplishments rather than their biology or genetics, then yes, you should be getting the best people. I mean, there was a story not long ago that was pointing out that the FAA is apparently hiring people that are literally mentally unstable to be, flight, what do you call it?
Attendants?
It's not attendants, the guys that fly on the planes, the guys
Pilots?
in the towers, not the pilots, the guys that actually land, and tell you, oh, get on runway 19er.
Oh, you mean the people on the walkie
air traffic controllers? Thank you.
There you go. Right. Oh my God! So you're telling me
we are two senior citizens.
You're telling me they want to hire people that are mentally unstable?
Well, they lowered the standards because they need people to fill these positions.
I'm never flying again.
They're more concerned about ethnicity and whether or not you're included. And again, actually, I apologize to our audience who may have known it off the top of their head. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is DEI, and that's the new motivation, I guess, in whatever hiring for businesses. But regardless, if you're hiring based on those things rather than the fact that they might be really capable of doing their job,
you see
then
people,
like you just pointed out, like why would I get on a plane? I have no interest in flying.
This is why I stepped out of being politically correct liberal, okay? Because this is absolute insanity. And America is, well, maybe England too, but mostly America. This is the country where it all happens. It's all about emotions and feelings. It's got nothing to do with logic. Okay, nothing to do with logic.
Reason.
Look what's happened to England. Okay, England, especially London. London is now Londonstan, and they've let all these people into their country. They've completely changed the ethnicity of the country. All right, and they want to be so liberal and PC that the original people born in that country and their history of being the white Anglo-Saxons, is that what they were?
Yes, I think that would be correct.
They are going to eventually eliminate themselves because
they're watering down their society.
Yep. And that is the worst thing you can do to any culture because that's how a culture disappears. Okay, I'm going to sit here and say it. I love the Spanish, the Italians, the Portuguese, the Poles, the Irish, all these different people that come, or I should say all these different countries. I love that. I love the culture that they have. But if you were to go to France or if you were to go to some country like, here's a perfect example, Poland. Okay. Poland will not let Muslims into their country. And they're one of the safest countries in Europe right now because they won't let Muslims in. and
very true. Yeah.
And I saw an interview with a woman who was a reporter asking the president of Poland, well, don't you think that's kind of racist? And he's like, we have the safest country in the world. What do you have?
Very true.
That was great.
And I remember seeing that interview, but honestly, I think it wasn't like from a perspective of keeping them safe. It was like because they were protecting their culture. I mean,
that's what I'm getting at.
They're a certain way, and they don't want to have their culture diluted by
that's
having
what I'm saying.
literally. Yeah, a million
You've
of
got countries that have their culture. America, yes, it's the melting pot. But why do people try to take away the culture? This country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, okay? And it was founded by mostly Caucasian people. All right, you had the Spanish, you had uh, the Brits, you had the French, you had all these different people coming over. They created the country, and then you had other ethnic cultures moving in from other places. And again, I'm not knocking it. I love America. It's what the melting pot is what makes us what we are. But at the same time, when you force these things on particularly white men or white culture in individually, that in itself is racist. When these people back in 2020, when they were tearing down all the statues because they were racist, because they had slaves, number one, they were all Democrats. That all the statues they tore down were Democrats. Number two, what these people didn't understand is that not only did every country in the world have slaves far after we stopped it in 1865, but they also didn't realize that slavery is still alive and well in Asia and the Arabic countries.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's still around, like you said, in many different countries around the world. And it's not like, the people that are being enslaved are African. They are of all ethnicities. So it's just a reality of our world, sadly, as it is, that, slavery has been a part of it for a long, long time.
Mm.
But America, at least, was one of the first countries to throw it off. And that was one of the reasons for the Republican Party to actually come into existence was to get rid of slavery.
Right. And I've seen so many people who get asked on the street, particularly black people, and they're asked on the street, do you know what party Abraham Lincoln belonged to? And they say Democrat. I'm like, nope. And
Nope.
they'll also ask them questions about other things that the Democrat Party. Did you know who started the KKK? Well, the Republicans. Nope. the Democrats.
Yep.
And they're completely they're stupid in the sense that they don't know this history, and yet they stand up and say, "Stop racism," but they know nothing about the history of it or what's happening now. If you want to bitch and complain about slavery, start bitching and complaining about the slaves that are taken in the Arab countries. That's something to bitch about, because here we've been fine for almost 200 years since slavery. And I'm sorry, 150 years since slavery ended, give or take.
Roughly, yes. Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, it's not part of our culture anymore, and it's been long gone. And it's just, it's not a relevant issue if depending on where you want to talk about this. But it's just not part of our American culture at this point. And it's just ridiculous when people bring it up, and especially reparations and that whole conversation.
Oh, reparations. What a bunch of crap. Who was it on The View? I think there's a black woman on The View who had her DNA looked up, and they found out that one of her ancestors was a slave owner.
Yeah,
she was
exactly.
so shocked. Is that who it was?
Sonny Houston.
She was so shocked when she found out, and yet she still said, "I still support retribution." And I'm like, really? Who are you going to pay? Yourself? Fucking fool. I can't stand that show. What a bunch of yentas. They really are stupid. Warning. If you are easily offended, we urge you not to listen to this broadcast. You'll only hurt yourself and cry.
Bill Maher hopes the Supreme Court of the United States strikes down the Colorado Trump ballot ban.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think this is the way, and I tend to agree. I mean,
of course,
if we don't see the Supreme Court come back with a unanimous vote on whether or not he can be on the ballot, I will be shocked.
Absolutely. It's completely 100% wrong. He hasn't been convicted of anything, and he hasn't done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly. So there's absolutely no reason to keep him off the ballot.
Nope. I did hear, I'll give you a story. I heard that there has been some talk recently. You know what Glenn Beck is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of his, but I heard that President Trump called Glenn Beck and asked him, as he's done to several people, who he should consider as his VP when he runs. And Beck was the one who said that he should pick Vivek.
Interesting.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think Vivek, the things that Vivek has said are great. Don't know much about the guy. And at first, I didn't know if he was a plant or just some guy that was trying to, I don't know, get everybody on his side and, turn out to be a
right. Just looking for attention, maybe.
Right. Wolf in sheep's clothing or something. But it turns out that some of the things that he has said are quite interesting. Secondly, he's young. And that is some kind of an important thing, to get a young person involved in the politics who thinks like a person, and I can't say conservative because I'm not conservative, but who thinks logically and can get the things done like Trump got done when he was in office. So there is that. I'll tell you, I don't, out of all the people that are running or were candidates that wanted to run as opposed to Trump, Vivek was the only one who actually stood up for Trump and said things like, even if I don't win, Trump is the man. Trump was the person who did all the things that he did for this country. He's also don't come here. What are you doing? Don't poop.
Yeah, and he also, was good with taking his name off the Colorado ballot if Trump wasn't going to be on it. He was the only candidate that said, you can take my name off too.
So on many levels, I agree with a lot of things that he says, but at the same time, I don't know much about him. So I don't know. I ever since I'm just not very trustworthy of any politician anymore. I've got a lot of animosity against the left and the right, but mostly the left.
To your point, I mean, Vivek is not a politician.
No, he's not. Then again, neither was Trump, which is why I voted for him, because people are sick and tired of the hypocrites and the liars that run for office in politics, whether they're left or right. We're sick of it. And that's why Trump won, because so many people wanted somebody who wasn't part of the corrupt establishment. And let's face it, people, there's a lot of corruption going on. Okay?
That's
mostly
sure.
Left, but left and right. Mostly left. And again, I'll repeat myself. It's why I left the Democrat Party, because I all I see is corruption and hypocrisy and lying and more lying. And that's why I left. And that's why I voted for Donald Trump, because he got the job done. He did more than any president before him, probably the last 4 or 5 presidents before him. So I commend him on that. He did a great job. And he doesn't get the credit that credit is due. Yes, he did talk shit. Yes, he is a flawed man when it comes to, being, how should I say, talking like a politician.
Who isn't flawed? I mean, we all have flaws.
Right. But when you're a politician, let's face it, Obama, Clinton, they were good talkers. And let's face it, that's politics right there. Talk good and you get the people, you sway the people to your side. But Trump's not like that. He's an SOB, but he's an SOB who gets shit done. That's why he's a billionaire whose business was an empire. So why not have a man who knows what the hell he's doing business-wise and get things done? Now, here's a man who I don't like either, but did very well, Bloomberg. I mean, Bloomberg did well for New York City. He was a businessman, but I didn't like him that much, you know?
No, I didn't like him at all either. I mean, he really was still, and he still does support leftist cause. But regardless, I mean, having a businessman in charge or somebody who actually has run a corporation is far more better than somebody who has never had a job or even created an organization or jobs for other people. Because government does not create jobs. It does not create income on its own. Mm-hmm. It has to take from its population to get income. And so, like, that's where you need somebody who has an appreciation for the bottom line. We have had so many years, decades of people just burning the books and spending more money than we get in. And it's something that none of us as everyday citizens can do. I can't overspend my income. If I do that, I am screwed. Mm-hmm. If whatever my monthly, weekly income is, I can't spend more than that. Eventually it's going to really, it's going to bury me. But the government sits there and just printing money and they get away with it.
All this country needs to do is become self-reliant on its own fuel, shut down the border, stop all the illegal immigration, and we would be a much better country. All we need to do is just become self-sufficient in our own fuel.
You have to make energy cheaper.
And we could.
And whatever you do to make energy cheaper makes everything else cheaper.
That's right. And that's why I'm saying that's exactly what Trump did. We were drilling in our own backyard. And at that point, for 4 years, we were the number one leading export in natural gas. But as soon as President Corpse came in, executive order, shut everything down because, we don't like Trump. F you, well, I'm going to write this, F you,
It's not even like they don't like Trump. They also have the green agenda that they have to appeal to, so they can't actually continue to imbibe in this stuff.
Speaking of which, I got to switch gears for a second here. Did you see the story? Did you see the story of the self-driving car in San Francisco that was beaten up and burned?
Yes, I did. Where they just attacked the car and destroyed it because they just wanted to.
I know. I mean, it was kind of stupid. It just goes to show they're a bunch of punks and thugs. But at the same time, I don't trust those fucking cars. A woman got pinned by one underneath it when it didn't stop.
There's been slews of problems with them. They've created all sorts of traffic problems because they've stopped working in the middle of an intersection or whatever else. Oh my God! I mean, what a surprise! You have a driverless car. Somehow it loses its brain and it doesn't know what the hell to do with itself. So, I mean, I thought it was a really funny story.
I didn't see anything in the story that said it lost, that it stopped working. All I heard was that people started burning it.
Yeah, no, that's what happened. I'm just pointing out in general, this is the technology you're dealing with. Why would you want a driverless car?
Yeah,
We're not there yet.
Not only that, it takes away from taxi drivers, truck drivers, anybody whose job it is to operate a vehicle with their brain instead of a hard drive.
It's another one of these ideas that I'm sure costs more money per unit than it would to actually just buy a little, American POS and stick a guy in it and have him drive around town all day.
That's right.
I'm sorry. It's just like I can't imagine the fact that
you certainly know. How I feel about this. I mean, again, I don't think it was the people, what they did, breaking the windows, that was kind of uncalled for. But at the same time, I was kind of like, yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, they were. It was definitely like one of those things that it was a frustration. They let it out. I
Mm,
don't know. Somebody started it, and then the rest of the gang just jumped in there and they destroyed this driverless car that had fortunately nobody inside of it.
hmm.
And okay, it's kind of a riot. Sure, you destroyed probably like a $20,000-$30,000 vehicle. But how stupid are you sending in $30,000 vehicles to wander around a city? I mean,
Yeah, I
I,
don't like it. I just keep having nightmares about Terminator.
well, okay, I guess I can see that point, but I don't worry about it. But it's just like I'm never going to get into a driverless car. I would much rather
No,
walk or take the subway. I mean,
absolutely. I'll never
you
get
know,
into a driverless car. Never. And I certainly wouldn't get into a car either in which I let it take over. If I'm going to be in a car, I want to be in control because I'm the one who can operate with my brain and see everything around me that's happening and act accordingly. I'm sorry, I don't think a computer is at that point. Number one. Number two, I don't
no,
want a computer to be at that point.
I would much trust a guy from Pakistan that I can't talk to get me from point A to point B than I
Hey,
would
buddy, where
a
you going,
driverless
buddy?
car that I have to somehow tap on a screen and it still takes me to some place in the middle of nowhere that I don't want to go. So I mean, I much rather deal with a real human being,
Mm,
any day of the week. And
any day of the
hey,
week.
Google Translate nowadays is an app on your phone. So if you
Mm,
can't communicate with your Pakistani, cab driver, then hopefully your phone will help you out with it. But still, I do not want a driverless car.
nope.
We're not there yet. And I'll even go on this point here, just throw that out here, because I know that's where the technology is going. We have driverless 18 wheelers in the theory in the future.
Nope.
Like, okay, fine. If you want to have driverless vehicles, you have to give them their own roadway. And that way, us
That's a good idea.
normal people that actually have brains and change our minds and think of things and last minute and the whole thing, can actually navigate roadways, and we don't have to worry about the mindless vehicles that are just going from point A to point B and they don't care about anything else in the world.
Mm, I
Just
know.
throw that out
But that
there.
is a good idea. If they are driverless, they should have their own highway or their own lane or whatever, and probably their own highway because I don't even want to be in the same highway with a lane that has driverless cars. The only thing I ever saw that was far in the future. You ever see the movie um shit? It was
Yes.
Tom Cruise something report.
Oh, Minority Report.
Minority Report. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Remember the cars that they had that
Pre-crime.
every
Hmm.
yeah, the cars that they had that everybody like kind of shared them. It was just like a taxi. Nobody had cars anymore. It
Right.
was just
Right.
yeah, that
You
was
just
kind of
went out to the street and you grabbed a car and you
yeah,
went to wherever you
yeah, and the
wanted to
car
go.
brought you right up to your building. It
Hmm.
would go up. Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, I guess to some degree there is a reality where that actually is playing out. I don't know if it's in more than just New York City, but New York City has a whole fleet of e-bikes
Yeah.
that are available for people to
Oh,
basically do the same
oh,
thing.
before I
But the thing is
forget.
that people are keeping them; they're not returning them, and so I mean, there's a whole other issue there. But essentially, yeah, there's e-bikes all over the city that you can just apparently grab one, and somehow I guess you check it out, and then you drive it wherever you want to go, and you check it back in wherever you go.
So recently, uh, I believe it was New York that got was it New York? I think it was New York. Damn it! I heard this great story about. I'm pretty sure it was New York got money from. I believe it was from the government, uh, and it was like lots of money. And they started talking to these people on the street, saying, "Hey, did you know that your city got all this money?" And the people are like, "Oh, finally, we need the money. People are starving, and people are gas expensive, inflation, blah blah blah." And then when they told them what the money was for electric scooters and chargers all throughout the city. That's all it was for. They weren't being given any money. The money wasn't going towards anything really good. It was just going towards more electrical crap. And
Right.
and
Paying off corporations to buy equipment that people
Right.
don't give a shit about.
Right, and again, it's cool. You wanna get the electric vehicles or even the scooters. That's good. I have an electric scooter. I actually have one. Because I bought it from you or
Yep.
through you. And I use it around my neighborhood, and that's it.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you're going to short distances to whatever you got to go to.
I basically just take it for luxury rides. I'll throw my camera on my back, and I go into area. And I live in a very rural area, and I'll go into areas where there's a pond or some trees or whatever, and I'll photograph birds or animals, and then I jump on the scooter and I go somewhere else. And it's a great scooter. I can go off road with it and everything. It's got these thick tires, but I don't rely on it for anything. I mean, you couldn't even if you wanted to, but I'm supposed to get they say you're supposed to get up to they say 60 miles, but I don't really think that's true. Anyhow,
you haven't measured it.
I haven't measured. I have driven it, a good distance here and there. It's got this really expensive big battery in it, and the thing is, the more these cars and electric vehicles are created for the public, the problem is the electrical grid will not be able to handle all of this electrical equipment. I mean, we have problems now, especially in California, where they have brownouts all the time, and they tell people don't use your AC, don't use, use your television or whatever. I don't know, but they're told not to use electrical appliances.
I think it's mostly AC, which you kind of need in California.
Right. So how in the world is an electrical grid supposed to maintain all these electrical cars that they want to do? And on top of that, with the president telling all these car companies that they have to create these things, we're I just don't think there's enough thought going into this. I really don't.
Well, there isn't. There's no thought being put into this, not to mention the technology's certainly not ready. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day because I was driving a decent amount of distance. I actually covered 250 miles in 8 hours. And I'm sorry, it was a total of 500 miles. It was 4 hours each way. So I did a huge amount. Yeah, driving. Actually, it was in the Massachusetts. But I mean, I drove
to Massachusetts.
Yes,
I thought you said Connecticut.
No, it was through Connecticut. I went through all the way to Connecticut, out to the little arm on Massachusetts.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much the only way you can get to Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's straight.
Unless
straight
you're going
out
to
there.
Go up through Canada and then drive around the Great Lakes.
I was on 95 for the most part, so I'm sure many of our listeners can know of 95 in New England. Regardless, there I did a long trip, and I couldn't help thinking, when I stopped for gas, when I filled up my tank, I had over 400 miles to go until I had to refill. And then, when I went to refill, it took me like 5 minutes to refill, and then I was back on the road.
That's right.
But if I had an EV, I would be sitting around twiddling my thumbs for what, half an hour at the very least? I know that's the very minimum you need to give it to, get a partial charge, but it's still a full hour or so to get a full charge. Like, who the hell's got this time to sit around, letting my car charge up? Screw that. I mean, seriously.
I don't blame you, man. That like if you're in a rush, like if you got to go to work, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people understand. They got their own reasons of why they would or would not want
for
it.
the illustration of my point. I didn't leave until noon. I need to get to where I was going by 5 o'clock. I need to then turn around.
It's only
a
5-hour drive anyway.
Right. I need to turn around and come back and do the whole thing. But if I had to put into that time frame the fact that I had to charge my car, and the fact, and I've also already watched other people, videos that people have posted about their cars, their EVs. Like, it'll tell you when you start your journey, you have X amount of miles that you can cover. But somehow by the time you're like, halfway there, you've already used up more than half your miles.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, it's again, I said it in one of the other episodes, like, I do not want a car that acts like my phone.
That's right.
More often than not, I pick it up and like, oh my God, you're almost dead.
And imagine how much money you got to spend to have that charger installed to your house. And then once you hook it up to your car, how much you're paying to charge the car. I mean,
not to mention the electricity is coming from fossil fuels. I mean, for the most part, depending on where you live in the country, it's either, hydroelectric or it's being produced by coal or other petroleum products. So, I mean, you're getting your electricity.
And then think about how Biden is shutting down all these coal mines. Meanwhile, China is opening up more coal mines.
Because they don't have any environmental concerns. They don't care about whatever they do.
They don't care. As a matter of fact, one of the leading contributors to pollution are Asian and Latin America. And I hope nobody takes offense to this, but based on what I read, a lot of poor people contribute to the pollution cause because they simply don't care about it, about the environmental conservation. And they're not educated about the importance of not polluting. When I lived in places like Patterson, it's really bad now. I mean, it's just really bad. It was bad when I was a kid. It's like 10 times worse now. There's just garbage all over the streets. There's a lot of the projects.
And poverty, I guess.
It's a lot of poverty, and people don't care. They just throw garbage out all the time. They don't care. It's not their property that they own, and even if it is their property, they don't care. So when I say that a large amount of people who are poor contribute to this pollution, it's because they're not these white liberals that live in these rich areas with, big houses where everything is pristine and clean. No. It's not like that for them. They don't care.
Frankly, they don't have the privilege to do that. When you're trying to survive, you don't have the privilege of thinking about the environment.
Of course.
Okay. I've watched, I mentioned in one of our other episodes, there's a YouTube channel called Indigo Traveler. And this is a guy who's from New Zealand, and he travels to many countries that basically, as an American, there's no way we could travel into. And, he sees, like, going into Nigeria or into the Congo, there's vast, huge populations of people that don't have the privilege to think about anything else. But if they can scrounge up enough material, whatever it might be in their world, to sell, so they can buy food just for the day. And they generally go home to buildings that, literally are shacks that have, water running through the middle of them. And they're lucky to keep their feet dry just when they get up to, have to go pee. Or it's literally, the contrast is stunning. So to think about the fact that, poor people should care about the environment, they are lucky to actually get enough food on a daily basis, to keep going, as well as to find a few minutes in their lives to be be happy for something, smile, hang out with somebody they love and care about, and actually go, enjoy life for a moment before they have to find food again.
When I went to Brazil 20 some years ago, we had to pass through Sao Paulo, and there was an area, I remember we had to cross over this bridge, big river. And before we crossed over, I could see under the bridge, there was like a shanty town with tarps and like pallets, people that use pallets and stuff to make their little
kind of like huts. Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, to make their huts and their tents. And I mean, there was garbage everywhere. And then the closer we got, it stunk like shit and piss. And I mean, I don't know if you ever seen images of Sao Paulo, but I remember when we were cutting through the city, as far as my eyes could see, just houses and apartments, just miles and miles.
Like they're
and miles.
stacked up on top of each other.
Well, not so much stacked up. I'm just saying, as far as my eye could see, it was just
right.
And
I mean, that's all
these
you
weren't
could see.
high-rise buildings; they were all low,
No.
like maybe
Right.
1 or 2 stories at the most.
But it's not
And
like
it
you
just
saw
went
any green.
It
You
went
just
on
saw buildings
forever.
that built. Right. It wasn't any green or parks. It was just
No.
building after building after building.
No, I don't think I saw one tree. And as I said, that was close to where the bridge was that we crossed over, and I saw Shantytown. And the odor, you could just smell the human waste. It was just so disgusting, so disgusting. Well, I don't mean to talk shit about Brazil. I had a nice time in Brazil, but there were some really bad places in it.
Welcome back, everybody. We are at Final Thoughts. Our final thoughts for this episode, which is episode 7. I guess I just wanted to bring up a final thought based on our last segment, is that there was a movie that was well known for taking place in Brazil, and it was from 2002 called City of God. That's what I was referring to. So if anybody wants to look up that movie, I've seen a few clips on YouTube, and it certainly is a very introspective, I don't know how to say it, but it takes you to a world that, as Americans or people in the Western world, you've never been to before. And so the storyline, real quickly, is it's Brazil in 1960s. It's called City of God. There's let's see. The Tender Trio robs motels and gas trucks. Younger kids watch and learn as well too well. This is all in the 1960s, and it talks about how these gangs grow and mature essentially in this environment in Brazil. So it's a really cool movie. I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen a number of clips, and so I recommend it to Myke and the audience.
Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for, just to give these extra thoughts and,
Okay.
Something else to, stream when you're sitting there, flipping through all the options and, hey, what could I watch? Look at that. You're surrounded by, your animals. You
Ladies
have
and
Sergeant
gentlemen,
on one hand.
Now that we've gone from the movie promotions, this is Sergeant. You met him before. This cat over here, this is Puma. He is the brother of my other cat, Cricket. Just letting you know real quick, I am an animal lover, and these pets are all rescues. I adopted all of them. Sergeant, as you can see, he's got a naked belly. That's how I got him. He was very, very neglected, but his owner did love him, just didn't have the time for him. And I do have other birds. I have a cockatiel. I have a parakeet with a tumor on its wing. And as I said, another cat. And right behind me over here is a tank with a ball python in it. Again, all my animals are rescues and adopted. So I just wanted to introduce you because you always hear the birds in the background. And this is one of them. Although he's not much of a singer. He's more of a squawker and a screamer. Of course, he's not doing anything now.
Sergeant, you mean?
Sergeant is, yeah. The other birds are usually what there you go. The other birds are what you hear tweeting and chirping and whistling in the background. But Sergeant doesn't do that.
And so why does Sergeant have no feathers on his body?
Okay, so real quick, birds are extremely emotional birds. The problem with birds is that if they don't have somebody to play with them and spend time with them, particularly parrots, if you don't spend time with them, they become self-abusive and they start literally abusing themselves, so to speak. Sergeant, when I got Sergeant, he was already like that. He had plucked out all his feathers. That's because after his original owner died, The people who had him didn't pay any attention to him. They didn't play with him. When you have a parrot, they are incredibly intelligent creatures, and they need interaction like a child. All right, when they tell you, in fact, when you buy a parrot, it's like getting a 3-year-old child for the rest of your life. This parrot could live to 65, 70 years old. Okay, and the problem, nobody was paying any attention to him, and that went on for like years. And he was in a small cage. They never took him out. They never played with him, and unfortunately, he began to pluck out all his feathers. Nevertheless, he's very happy now. I have a nice
And
big
so,
cage for
I
him.
mean, it's obvious, but I mean, just to ask the question, I mean, once they pluck out their feathers, they don't grow back.
In some cases, they do. However, like hair follicles, if they continue to pluck out the feather, the chances of them growing back become less and less possible. And as a matter of fact, my cats were born with a almost fatal disease. I cannot remember what it's called, but they were literally nursed back to health by the woman who I adopted them from, who worked at a shelter, and she was amazing. She was like, I call her an angel, because she spent months nursing these cats back to health. And they had one other brother. He died. It wasn't my cat. But this is the remainder of the litter. A boy, that's Puma. The girl, Cricket. And the other one that died. And there you have it, folks. So moving right along, I want to say thank you to everybody for having tuned in tonight. And I hope you like the show. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I feel like such a whore when I have to say all that stuff, but please do that, because we want to hope that we'd like to get the show, a little bit more recognition, and we could do more stuff with it. At the end of the month, we're going to be having a guest, our first interview on the show, and it's going to be Goolsby, the lead singer and creator of the band Blitzkid. He's going to be coming on the show, and we're going to talk to him about some of the things that he's been doing in the band and so on and so forth. I will have more information for you on the next show that we do, which will be episode 7. And
this is 7.
This is 7. I'm sorry, number 8. Yes. So there you go. We are very excited to be where we are right now. I'm hoping that we can continue to do the show, but we can only do it provided that you like it and we offer you interesting material. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Z to say his good nights, and then I will say good night. Good night. So Z, take it away.
So I want to just point out again, yes, like Myke said, it's really important. If you really enjoy the show, please support us by subscribing, liking, but most importantly, sharing. If you can share with your friends and other individuals, we can grow our audience and hopefully someday be able to help support our show a little bit better. In either case, it is a pleasure, as always, Myke, to banter with you and to go through our daily subjects or subjects that come up every week. It's just amazing, like how we continue to talk about these things. But it's this last week, I think, is a turning point, and so it was very interesting to see how it all played out, and we'll have to see how the next few weeks play out as history continues to roll out in front of us.
Oh my God, yeah. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to visit my website, mykehideous.com, for all kinds of fun stuff, including my book, King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit, the memoirs of Myke Hideous. And that's about it. Thank you, everyone, for listening, tuning in, etc., etc. We will catch you on the flip side in the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Good night.